Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I am Tracy Cram Perkins, and today's show is the Dementia Home Care Show. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of the book, Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. And I know in our last episode, I promised we would have Governor Martin Shriver from Wisconsin on with us to talk about his book, My Two Elaines. However, Governor Shriver is ill today and could not join us. So I have a very special show in store for you today. We are going to be talking about using cueing aids with dementia. But first, I have a really exciting announcement that I want to share with you. After my book being out for almost 4 years, I finally got an audiobook and it released on January 15th, 2025. And I am so excited to share this with you because right now it is on sale for on Amazon for 99 cents, and Barnes & Noble, it's free. And these are if you have the subscription to their audiobooks. So if you have the subscription, I ask you to save the money and go out and get these books now so that you can not impact your budget, but actually have 9 hours and 30 minutes of really great content. And I just love the narrator. Her name's Erin Grassi. She did a fabulous job, and I loved hearing her. My husband and I have been listening to this. We've laughed, we've cried. When she talked about the amorous skunks, I was nearly dying on the floor. And if you want to know what amorous skunks have to do with dementia, you'll have to listen to the book. Anyway, let's get on to our episode here. So I had a recent event where one of my friends is taking care of his wife. She has early onset dementia, Alzheimer's disease, actually. And we had an incident and she was helping with the laundry. And this was really very sad for her. She wanted to wash some rags. She put it in their front loader washing machine, and then she poured in bleach and OxyClean inside the drum. For those of you that don't understand the chemistry, they are both oxidizers. That means that they'll create lots and lots of bubbles. It'll pour right out of the machine. It will clog the machine. But the worst part is it gives off a toxic gas that can make you very ill. Fortunately, she told her husband what she had done. They were able to stop the machine before anything bad happened. And then they were able to get it drained and taken care of. But what we did is they called me afterwards and we created some cueing aids for them because we had to talk about what would work for her. Because the important part is if you have a cueing aid and your loved one finds it offensive, they're not going to use it or they're going to throw it away. And I can tell you that because my dad and I, when I was caring for him, we had some issues where he couldn't remember how to shave or to brush his teeth. And so we put up some notes on the bathroom mirror for him. I would come in every morning to assist him and the notes would be gone and I couldn't find them anywhere. So he got rid of them because he was offended that I would think he didn't know how to brush his teeth or how to do these things. And so we worked and worked until we could find something that would not offend him. Eventually, I ended up just guiding him through brushing his teeth and shaving. But it was that experience that taught me that, okay, I need to make sure I am mindful of what will help my loved one. And then when it came time to take care of my aunt, she was in the early stages of vascular dementia. She could still take care of herself and stay at home. We gave her a memory board because that's what she said she would like. It turns out that, and I didn't realize this would happen, that if we stick a note on the mirror to remind ourselves to do something, like let's say we stick something motivational, like saying, be positive, or say this to myself 12 times a day, whatever the note is, after about 2 weeks, we don't even bother looking at it anymore because our mind tells us we already know what the note says. So then it's no longer useful, and we shouldn't even have it on the mirror at that point because we're ignoring it. It's just the way our brain works. It's just the way we work. So it's trying to find something that will help. Well, my aunt, because she had home health access, a speech pathologist came in and shared with us that if you change the colors, or you change the fonts, or change the color of the font, you need to do it every couple of weeks, and then also check in with your loved one to make sure that it is still useful to them and they're not upset by it. So what we did for my friends is we created some items that we stuck on the wall. And so the first thing we did is we wanted to make sure that she knew what to put into the washing machine. So I have a graphic here we're going to take a look at, and we're going to walk you through what we did here. So she did not know anymore not to put anything in the drum of this front loader machine. Now, a few things we did. Red is a very important color when you want to draw attention for someone with dementia. Let's talk about color really quickly here. Black and white look like holes to someone with dementia or can disguise things. So black definitely looks like a hole. You'll notice that this is a white washing machine, so everything can kind of blur together. We need something with contrast. So red and bright blues are really great for drawing attention. So what we did is we created these signs. Now with someone with dementia, they have a decreasing ability to read. They can still read, but they can't read long sentences. So again, the speech pathologist explained to us that between 8 and 10 words is the max that they can read before they forget what's at the end of the beginning of the sentence. So we put this together for her. We explained because she didn't remember where the detergent went. So you can see that we put where detergent went if it was liquid, where bleach went and also where fabric softener. So we made sure that she understood what each of the trays meant. We also put a note on there for what can go into the drum of the dryer and where to put it, because we wanted to make sure that she didn't panic. And we made sure also it was at her eye level, because the other thing that happens with dementia is as they progress in the disease, they get tunnel vision. They also get what's called a chromatopsia. A chromatopsia means you can see black and white, and then the contrast of bright colors. So we wanted to make sure that what we did is we got it A, at her eye level, and B, something that she could see and would be drawn towards. So what we did is we put the white letters on the red background so that she could see that immediately and then focus on it. But we had to put it at her eye level. And it turns out as the disease progresses that you may not, as you're getting the tunnel vision, usually you think tunnel vision goes this way. It can also go right into the centers of your eye so that you're seeing out to the side. So we had to figure out where her vision was. And it ended up being, she could see, and you can't see this, but from my eyebrows down to about the middle of my chest, that was where her focus was. So we made sure we put the signs in the area where she could see it and where it would draw her attention. And then we also are going to be experimenting so that after 2 weeks, because this just happened 2 days ago, we're going to shift the signs around and put them in different locations so that they've changed enough. And I've also got others that have different colored backgrounds. So we went with a lime green and we went with an orange just so we could draw attention to it. And we changed the colors but left the images on there. So we just want to make sure that you have the ability to change the signs, move things around, and understand where they go so that they can see these things. Because your loved one will get very frustrated because they don't understand why you're telling them to do this or why these signs are there. Or maybe they forget and they just go ahead, and because they've trusted their brain their entire lives, this is what I am going to do. So let's look at the next slide that I created for them, because we also want to prevent having things put in the wrong position. So here we decided we better let her know that she can't put bleach in the drum. Now, all of her life she had used a top load washer, so it made sense to her to just pour it straight into the drum. So we wanted to make sure this was in an area where she could see it, and so that she would understand not to put the bleach there. Again, we made this one very large so that it attracts her attention and reminds her that no bleach goes in the drum. Now, the next slide, let's take a look at this. Okay, this is hugely important because you cannot expect her to remember not to mix the powder with the bleach. And the reason why is because most of us have been using powdered detergent most of our lives. Liquid detergent didn't become available for quite a while. And also, people are used to mixing their laundry detergent and then pouring the bleach into the bleach container in the washing machine. So it's now making her aware not to do this, because I guarantee you in a couple of weeks, she won't remember it happened except for seeing the signs. So it's important that we make sure that the cueing aids are in an area where she can see them. We did one last slide for her. And on this slide, we want to make sure that she understood what to do with the bleach if they're doing a self-clean cycle on the machine, because that particular machine that they had needed to be cleaned every 40 cycles. I learned something new by that way. So what we decided to do is we put an instruction for the self-clean on there, but they also ended up having, because they had mixed the two chemicals together, they had to run a self-clean cycle on that particular model and then drain all the water out of it and let it reset itself. It was quite the thing, because they also had to have the dryer open the washer door open for half an hour, and have it be ventilated to clean out the rest of the toxic gases. So it's really important that you consider what your loved one can and cannot do. And then you'll also have to, as the disease progresses, consider, okay, so now I might have to lock up the chemicals so that my loved one doesn't get into them and have this happen, or mistake the chemical for something else. Because I know that in my own household, I didn't think about the bathroom and the issues in the bathroom, and my dad getting in under the sink and not realizing that something wasn't shampoo. So we had some stuff that we had to rethink and remove chemicals from the bathroom so that he didn't mistake something. Now, as he got later into the disease, we had everything off the countertop except for the stuff that he needed, and he never looked down in the cabinets. But in the early and early moderate portions of the disease, when they are having more and more difficulty remembering how to do daily activities, it's important to remove items out of their line of sight where they won't see them and use them accidentally. The bathroom and the kitchen are two places where they can really get in trouble and really hurt themselves. Anything that is a spray can be mistaken for hairspray. And I know that sounds odd. It's hard to believe, but it can be an issue. So if the bottles look kind of like similar to what their hairspray was that they used to use, or any of their hair care products, or if you have a tube of something like, let's say, Preparation H for having hemorrhoids, that could be mistaken for toothpaste. So anything that's medical or could be mistaken for another self-care product, excuse me, should be removed from the bathroom or in the kitchen. Now, you should also consider using perhaps child safety locks on the cabinets if it's someplace where you don't have another place to put it. Pardon me, I am sorry, I'm about to cough. My apologies. Anyway, that didn't work. I'm sorry. So going on, back to the kitchen, you also want to have, I apologize. Going back to the kitchen, you want to have also perhaps oh, what's the switch? The switch for the, I am so sorry. I'm having an allergic reaction to something. Anyway, going back to the kitchen, stove safety. Another thing to think about is adding a switch that you can cut off the power to the stove. One of the big things that happens is people don't remember to turn off the stove after they're done cooking, and they'll walk away and things can catch on fire. When that happens, there's also products out there now, such as Firebot, that you can install over the fan in the hood of the kitchen that is a non-toxic fire suppressant, and it can spray it over the material. It kills the oxygen in the area, and then it can be cleaned with regular household cleaners. So it is safe. It is non-toxic. It should not be eaten. It should not be inhaled, but it will suppress the fire. But if you can install a switch where your loved one won't see it, such as in a cabinet, where you can flip it on and off and turn off the stove so that no one else can turn it on without knowing about the switch. Things like that. Also putting on the child safety locks on the drawers. Now, one of the things that I had to do in my kitchen, I had one drawer that was a designated junk drawer, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that does this. I ended up using pastels because I used a pastel shelf liner. It was a pink and blue mix, and it also had a couple other colors to it. But it was a really soft color, and it blended in with our kitchen cabinetry. So it made the drawer invisible, and my dad couldn't see it because we had two different times where he got in there. And we had one time where he actually started to put little bolts in his mouth because he thought it was candy. So we ended up doing two things with that. I hid the drawer, and the next thing I did is I made sure that in his nightstand by his bed, he had snacks he could nibble on. And then I had what I call decoy snacks that I had a little sign with where he could have stuff to munch on in the middle of the night. Because a couple things with dementia, they don't always remember that they ate. And telling someone they already ate does not help them because their brain, again, they've trusted it all their lives, is telling them no, they haven't. They are not necessarily recognizing the signals for hunger or full. So what we need to do is make sure we have appropriate snacks out for them, because I can guarantee you when someone dies from any types of the dementias, they are not going to be overweight. So do not panic if they're overeating, but do not feed them a lot of sugary snacks. This will cause the dementia to increase. You can also cause hallucinations, delusions. So you want to be careful on the amount of sugar that they consume. And I realize that there are some people who have an overwhelming need for sugar. They have huge withdrawals if they don't get the sugar. So you'll have to moderate whatever it is that you're doing with them to meet them where they are. It's just one of those things that it's trying to find out what works best for your loved one. And believe me, I did not find this out all at once. This is a 16-year progress that I ended up failing 75% of the time. And the reason I wrote the book is because I could put the 25% together where I could find it, and I figured you guys might need it too. Anyway, going back to cueing aids, let's talk about some of the other things. In the bedroom, if they have snacks in their bedroom, or if you have issues with, let's say, hoarding, one of the things that I found successfully worked with my dad was getting clear plastic bins and then putting notes on the bins that he could read. And we did this because he liked to rummage, and it was easier to get him to rummage in his bedroom than it was to have him rummaging around the house and getting into something that might be like a bin full of loose screws. So we've found things that he liked to play with. We put it in the drawers. He could see them because they were on an open shelf. And then when he felt like it was right next to his favorite books, he could just open the drawer, play with whatever was in there, and then put it back. And then he would feel safe that it wasn't going to be stolen or lost. The other thing that we discovered, and this was really fun, but it took me forever to figure this out. Okay, I talked about red. My dad was constantly losing the remote. Air tags did not exist when I was taking care of my dad. So we had to figure out a way of keeping his remote from traveling. And so what we ended up doing, one of my friends told me that she had made a walker sign for her mom because her mom always lost her walker. And she made a handicap parking stall for her by her favorite chair in the living room and in her bedroom, and had her name on it, said it was reserved specifically for her. And she would fight anybody that would try and take her parking space. And if you don't understand that, you've probably never commuted and driven a car, and you get upset when somebody parks in your spot. So what we did for my dad is I had a special parking space for his remote. And I also put a red placemat underneath it so that he could find it. I wanted to make sure he could see it, and it was directly located under his lamp. That was on his nightstand, so that he was able to spot it immediately and knew where to put it. Now, the only thing they didn't have back then, and I wish we would have had then, was a product like the Flipper, which was a universal remote where I could program in his favorite television stations. He only watched one television station at the end, and that was the Encore Westerns. And so anytime he fell asleep with the remote in his hand and he hit the button and it switched to something else, we ended up having a problem because he would assume that whatever he was seeing was actually the news, and then would be panicked if he saw something on World War II because he thought he was back in the war. So it's important to consider what your loved one can handle. But if you can find a universal remote that is designed for someone with dementia, it will help. And then if you can also create designated landing areas for those things so they don't hide them. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't wake up in the middle of the night and have a moment of paranoia and they want to hide it because they feel like somebody's coming to steal or rob from them. This happens quite frequently. You might find out, like one of my friends did with her dad, he was absolutely convinced that somebody was going to steal his dentures in the middle of the night. So, and my friend works in a dental office, so you can imagine her angst over this. He took out his dentures. He got a couple paper plates, taped them together with duct tape, folded it up, taped it again, and then hid it. Okay, she had to get him to a doctor's appointment. He needed to have his dentures in so that they could do some work for him. Anyway, she had to find his dentures, and he couldn't remember where he put it. He just knew it was in a safe space, and it took her 45 minutes to find them tucked in a drawer, not in his bedroom, but in somebody else's bedroom, back behind some socks. So, and then it took her another 5 minutes to cut them out of all the duct tape. I'm sorry. So what she ended up doing with that is at night, she got him to agree they would do a cleaning process, and then she would store them in his special safe. And they created a strong box for him that could not move, and he put it in the safe, and then he felt fine. So it's trying to meet your loved one where they are so that they feel safe. And especially because overnight can be some serious challenges. We had my dad hiding things behind my fish tanks. We had him fish tank, I should say. We had him putting stuff in places I didn't even know how he got them there. So it's just trying to find ways to make them feel safe, give them distractions, make sure that you can exercise them enough that they will sleep through the night. And then I learned this trick, and this is a really important thing. I found out later, after I had him for a while, that a dimmer switch works wonders. I live in an area where it gets dark really early in the wintertime, and my dad's sundowning, where he would get upset or distracted, or his brain was telling him he should be doing something, but he couldn't figure out what it was because he was tired. I found that if I turned the lights up starting at 3:00 in the afternoon, he would calm down. He wouldn't get confused. And when I was researching this a little bit, I discovered that it was releasing endorphins in his brain. It was also making him feel calm and releasing a little bit of serotonin, and that he was just happier and more with it. So we made sure we had daylight lighting, and we turned as I said, at 3:00, we started turning the lights up to make sure that he didn't go through that. We also had a special door that he could go in and out of, where I could actually have a buzzer where I could hear him going in and out. And we made sure that we had a sign on it that he knew it was his special entrance. And he loved having his own VIP entrance. And yes, we called it the VIP entrance. So it was just making sure that you take into consideration what your loved one appreciates and how they feel, because the more you connect with their feelings, the better off the outcome is. And if something goes wrong, that's okay. Just make sure that you laugh about it with them, because if you can both laugh, you can both relax. And that's a very important tool that I discovered the hard way, because my husband could do this naturally with my dad. He didn't butt heads with my dad. My dad and I, we had the same personality. So you can imagine that also, we would butt heads from time to time. And it wasn't for the lack of love. It was just that I couldn't understand the place he was coming from at that time. So I had to learn how to get into his shoes, understand where he was and what he was feeling. And then when we started laughing, it made it so much easier to get together and have fun. And then I discovered that if I played games with him at lunch, simple card games that he could understand, I would know what kind of a day we were going to have and what kind of an evening we were going to have. And it was a really key indicator to me, saying, okay, he's having these issues now. I know I'm going to have a rough night, but if I do, and then what I did is I figured out, because I used, and it's on my website, the meltdown trigger list. I recorded the things that would trigger him so that I knew what I could use to mitigate that, and also what would bring him back to calm. So what it did for me is I created a list that also worked as respite, so that when my family came over to spend time with them, or they were giving us a timeout, they had a list in their hands that was showing them what they could do to get him to calm down if they set him off. And that's a really important thing. You need downtime. If you don't get that downtime, you're going to possibly become ill, have an injury, need hospitalization, or you could even pass before your loved one. So it's giving yourself time to breathe, to take the oxygen in for yourself. And what I usually do, tell people nowadays, because I didn't know how to operate my smartphone as well as I do now, but I put my timer on my phone then so that I could remember to breathe. And then I would just take a time out in the bathroom and go do some breathing exercises, just so I could get myself back to calm. Because you have to breathe. You have to get that oxygen in. You have to understand that you cannot do this by yourself. But going back to cueing aids, the other thing that was a challenge overnight was finding the bathroom. Now, I learned this from Lance Slatton over at All Home Care Matters about the color for the plants. I discovered the hard way that my dad was attracted to my ficus in the middle of the night, and I no longer have a ficus, because for him, that was the bathroom. He knew he was headed down the hall in the right direction. He knew his mission was to go to the bathroom, and that obviously was what it was. That was the bright spot. He knew that was where to go. It was a nice bright green color. And so that was the end of that. So what we ended up doing is we ended up making sure that there was a light on to guide him down the hall. We also made sure that we painted a contrasting color behind the wall, because at that time they didn't have the colored toilet seats available that we have today. Now you can even get relatively inexpensive seats with LED lights on the bottom of the seat that will guide your loved one to that seat. They come in blue, they come in other colors, so that they can find that spot. The other thing that I did wrong is my bathroom was monochromatic. So there was points where my dad could not see what it was I needed him to do. And so it was creating color as a cueing aid in there. I made sure that I had a bath mat that he could see, so that, and I checked with him, because after it took me a while to figure this out, that if I asked him the question, he'd actually tell me. But I just assumed that he wouldn't be able to explain to me what was going on, but he was able to tell me. He told me one time that the reason he would not go in and out of our door was because I had a black doormat and all he could see was the hole. And he told me if I fixed the hole, people wouldn't be afraid to go in and out of that door. Well, that was the biggest light bulb moment for me I ever had. So it's being able to communicate, figure out how to best ask them, taking that moment to just look back and say, okay, I know I have this problem. It's fixable. Let's find out what we can do. And so being able to guide your loved one, having that spot where they can feel safe, have enough lighting so that they can see the contrast and see what's going on around them within their area of vision. Now, early moderate and early onset, that's not going to be that much of an issue. But as the disease progresses, it's important to find out where their vision is, what they can see, so that you can have cueing aids in the right locations for them. Also, have a spot where they can have their own creative art things that they can do, or perhaps roll coins or some project that they love, that they will monofocus on, that they will just enjoy. It could be playing with Legos. It could, whatever it is that gives them joy. It has to be simple. Yes, you can use the multicolored Legos. There's not a problem with them seeing holes there. It's not large enough to cause them an issue of fear. But you can definitely give them something that will bring them joy, even if it's just folding towels, whatever you can do to make them feel useful, because we all want to feel useful. We all want to feel needed, which is why I'm going back to this. My friend wanted to help with the laundry and she just wanted to wash the rags. So it's making sure that we can get them have them feel safe, have them empowered so that they can do something that works for them. It doesn't matter if they do it 15 times in one day. It's to keep them busy, to keep them feeling useful, because we all want to have purpose. And if they feel that they have purpose, they're going to be happier. You're going to be happier. So it's trying to find those items that will help them along their journey. And cueing aids are a lifesaver. And I just can't stress this enough. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Everyone's going to feel differently about how this is approached. You might have to have this conversation with your loved ones about what they want multiple times, because at first might be resistant, or you might not be using the right way of talking to them. That's another thing that I had a problem with, is I didn't always know how to talk to my dad. With that, again, I was very fortunate. My husband, who was not one of his children, but very perceptive, was able to point me in the right direction, that I needed to take a moment back, laugh with him, and say, okay, I've got this problem. It's now my problem, not his problem. And I need your help fixing it. How can I fix this? Invite them to find the solution. Now, sometimes they can't. If they're too far into the disease, then you have to think for them. You'll know when you get to that point, because it's going to be into the middle to late moderate portion. When you get to that point, by this time, you will know their needs, know what they're looking for, and you'll be able to guide them and say, let's do this. I'm thirsty. I'm getting a drink of water. Let's go get a drink of water, and just guide them into the kitchen or wherever you're going to do this. So it's getting to that emotional need, because we have emotion related memory. They're going to remember when you upset them. They're going to remember the feeling. They may not remember the event, but they'll remember the feeling. But they also remember when you make them feel good and the things that they look forward to. One of my friends was very good with his dad. His mom and his sister could not figure this out, but his dad was losing a lot of weight. He had Perkinson's dementia. And so every Friday he would bring his dad a nutritional shake that was strawberry, was his dad's favorite flavor. And he would go home, make this after work, and run over and see his dad and get him to drink this drink. One weekend he forgot, and his dad let him know about it. And everybody in the room was shocked, because he remembered. But again, it was something that brought him joy. It was something he looked forward to. They're going to remember the feelings. So if you make them feel good, if you make them feel safe, make sure that you empower them with cueing aids that will help them get to a place of safety, or find what they need. Or here's another one. We had an issue with mirrors at a later point. Now, this is not a cueing aid, but this is more of a safety thing. What we ended up doing, because of the whole melting down issue, was I put a cellular shade in front of the mirror. And when it became an issue, I would take my dad out and said, I will take care of this. I would give him a book or something, and then I would go back in. All I would do is pull the shade down. It now looked like a window. Once it looked like a shade over a window, and I brought him back in, he was fine. We were able to continue on and do whatever we needed. But that was not easily come by knowledge. It took me a while to figure out, and I actually discovered this from Joanne Koenig-Kosty's wonderful book, Learning to Speak Alzheimer's. It's finding those pieces of information that you can all tie together to help your loved one. There are so many different resources out there, but you need some place to start. And usually we're so overwhelmed and we're so emotionally exhausted, it's hard to know where to start, which is why I'm here to help you and bring on wonderful guests and explain what's going on. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email. I will get back to you if we're not in the same time zone, but I will respond. So please feel free to reach out and share your questions. I will keep it confidential unless you give me permission to share it to teach as a teaching moment for someone else. But I want you to know this is a safe space that we can learn together. And if you have things that you want me to talk about, please send me those as well so we can discuss those on air and we can help you along with your journey. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of the program today, and I am just so excited that you have been there with me. But again, I just want to remind you that the audio version of this book is now out, and it is free on Barnes & Noble. It is also only 99 cents on Amazon. And also on Audible, if you have those subscriptions. So if you are a subscriber, you will be able to get those on for 99 cents or for free, depending on which platform you're on. And I encourage you to go out and get that book. You will laugh with me, you'll cry with me, and I'm there to support you the whole way. Anyway, the last few things I just wanted to cover is, again, I want to let you know that Governor Schreiber's wonderful book, My Two Elaines, he's a wonderful advocate for Alzheimer's disease and dementias. He talks about his journey here of taking care of his wife. He also has a lot of resources in this book. It's a really wonderful book. It's an easy read. It's very well written. And I love this. It's in his 4th edition. He included his children's perspective at the end of the book this time. And it's really wonderful to hear how his children did during this whole process, because he was only addressing initially what his experience was, but the depth and emotion that his children brought to it was such a wonderful experience. And they were able to share how they felt and how they managed to navigate the disease. Also, on our next episode, I am really thrilled to let you know that I'm inviting my friend, Lisa Schultz. She has a program called the Care Partners Project. She has created an app and also a planner for those that are taking care of loved ones with dementia or just illnesses in general. It allows you to have a family circle or a circle of friends that can help you in the caregiving in case they need to take your loved one to a doctor's appointment. It also acts as a bit of a Bible for the actual written word, because you can write down when they went toileting, which dehydration is such a key component to dementia care. I know that in my family, dehydration was a really huge issue. And every time I noticed somebody becoming delusional, I knew that they were dehydrated and possibly getting a urinary tract infection. They go hand in hand. So I had to make sure I had a schedule where they go, where I knew that they were drinking on time, and I would keep track then of how many times they went to the bathroom. Well, Lisa has incorporated that into her planner so that you can keep track of when your loved one went to the bathroom, either via cell phone or via your hard copy care planner. It's such a wonderful tool. I'm so excited to get to share it with you at our next episode. So we will be back on February 18th, and we will be sharing all of these resources and her other innovations. And I just cannot wait to share this with you. And again, you feel free to reach out to me with your questions. I am happy to answer them. Also, I will be doing a show on the Pro Aging podcast on I believe it's the 29th of this month. It will be available on YouTube, and we're talking about the 5 little known secrets to making dementia caregiving easier. If you go to my Facebook page, there's a link to the registration page for that podcast, or for that cast. It has a live Q&A. So if you want to bring your questions, you can ask me live questions. So if you have anything else, just let me know, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions. Master the art of listening with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacqueline.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations.